Good morning, Britain. The parents of the alleged BBC victim insist they stand by their story. The scandal engulfing the broadcaster has seen new twists overnight. The alleged victim says the unnamed star had done nothing wrong. But this morning, their mother says she stands by her claims that her child was paid thousands of pounds for sex pictures and she just wants to protect them. This has only increased pressure on the BBC investigation.
Yes, still so many questions surrounding this story. Has a crime been committed at all? Was there inappropriate behaviour from the BBC presenter? And what evidence exactly does the Sun newspaper have, and what have they seen? The next 24 hours may provide answers.
A teacher who was stabbed at a school in Tewkesbury has now been released from hospital. Parents have praised the actions of staff there.
As he's been named locally as 27-year-old Jamie Sansom, and he's been released from hospital now to recover with his family. Meanwhile, police will continue to question a teenager this morning on suspicion of attempted murder.
More than 300,000 people expecting to see their mortgage costs rise over the next couple of months. What can you do right now that would help? Martin Lewis will join us this morning with his advice.
And it's the concert ticket that everyone wants to get their hands on, but reports this morning say Taylor Swift's tour tickets are already up for resale for as much as £3,000. So are the Swifties being exploited?
Rain clearing from the southeast, then a day of sunshine and showers, and the outlook remains unsettled. I'll have all details of that and more coming up on Good Morning Britain.
Tuesday, 11th of July, 2023. Live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain with Susanna, Reid and Ed Balls.
Good morning, Britain. It has just gone 6 o'clock.
Well, at 7 o'clock, we find out what has happened in the last month to unemployment and to average earnings. A rather kind of, technical economics-y news story at 7 o'clock, but of huge importance to our viewers. And Martin Lewis will be here later in the programme to talk about it, because, of course, what is happening right now in the economy is going to determine whether the Bank of England decides that they need to raise interest rates and therefore mortgage rates even further. And I think there is an expectation of the financial markets they will go up again. But if today you see either stronger rises in wage inflation or unemployment still staying at what are kind of like record lows, the pressure will rise on those interest rates to go up from the Bank of England. We've got Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary, coming on at 8:30. His job is to try and keep unemployment down.
Yes.
But the Governor of the Bank of England will think that unemployment going up is what has got to happen in order to get inflation down, to stop that rise in mortgage rates. So it kind of like on a knife edge for economic policy at the moment.
So in your economic experience, and it is vast, just explain to us why something bad like more people being out of work would have a positive effect on inflation, because I think everyone's under the impression that inflation, which is stubbornly sticking at just under 9%, that the only thing that anyone had to deal with it was to keep on raising interest rates, which is having a devastating effect on people, on mortgages, and also on government borrowing as well. So why do you think that anyone would want more people to lose their jobs, be out of work, that at 7 o'clock seeing unemployment rising would have an impact on inflation?
Well, I think what the Bank of England thought a year and a half ago is that there would be a temporary rise in inflation, which would happen because after the pandemic, there was lots of upward pressures on prices because there'd been such destabilisation in the world economy, and also because of the big rise in energy prices which happened after the Ukraine war. And there would be a rise in inflation, and then it would come down again. And if that was what was going to happen, that would happen in a more benign circumstance for the economy. Painful for people paying their bills, but it would be kind of straightforward for them to manage. But what has happened is inflation has stayed higher for much longer. That means that people in their pay bargaining about discussions at work about wages are asking for higher wages to compensate for the higher inflation. And the Bank of England says, well, look, our task is to keep inflation at 2%. But if wages are going up by 6, 6.5%, 7%, that's much, much too high. How do they get people to ask for smaller wage rises? The answer is that if the economy is doing less well, if unemployment is going up, people are worrying about, well, you know, there's more people looking for jobs, there's fewer jobs around. That has a downward pressure on wage inflation. That's what gets inflation back down to target. And so if you go back to the early 1990s when the then Chancellor Norman Lamont famously, disastrously said, unemployment is a price worth paying to get inflation down.
That's the truth
That was a terrible thing for him to say.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if you look at the Governor of the Bank of England's remarks last night, reported on the front of the Financial Times, he says, basically, he says nobody wants to see unemployment higher or growth weaker. He says, but both price and wage increases at current levels are not consistent with the inflation target. So what the Governor said last night is, I don't want unemployment to go up. However, if you want me to meet my inflation target, they may have to. And that's what we'll find out at 7 o'clock, and that's what we can talk to the Minister about, and that's what Martin can come and talk about at 8:45.
Thank you, Professor Balls, for the economics lecture. I feel like I've just been at Harvard University, where you visit, don't you?
I do.
And share your knowledge and your wisdom. Very enlightening this morning.
Enlightening, but not necessarily very happy.
No, I know. Well, the brutal reality as well is if people lose their jobs, they spend less money, which means that inflation, you know, the downward pressure on inflation occurs, right?
But the problem is, if inflation is going up by big numbers like it is at the moment, 7, 8%, it's been even higher in the last year, that means people's savings start to become worth less, they can spend less. And so it's sort of, it is a tax on people's savings. So you can see why the government wants to get inflation down, but it's painful doing it.
More on that economic news with Mel Stride, as you say, later in the programme. And if you're struggling with your mortgage, absolutely crucial advice from Martin Lewis this morning after 8 o'clock. So don't miss that. At 7 minutes past 6, our main news this morning, the parents of the young person at the centre of those allegations against a high-profile, unnamed BBC presenter say they are standing by the claims and say that they have spoken out to protect their child. They allege he paid the teenager thousands of pounds for explicit photographs.
But a lawyer for the youngster now insists that nothing inappropriate or unlawful happened and has in fact dismissed the allegations as rubbish. And the BBC's Director General will now face questions about the scandal when he launches the corporation's annual report later. Nick Dixon is, for the second day running, at Broadcasting House for us. Nick, we urgently need to know what are the facts, what is the truth, and is there going to have to be an inquiry now to uncover that?
There may well be, because at this point, Ed, it is pretty much impossible to fully understand where the truth lies with this, particularly, as you say, with the young person at the centre of these allegations saying through their lawyer that the whole story is rubbish. So you have claim, you have counterclaim, all the speculation on social media as well. And as things stand, no investigation taking place from the police. Let's just take a look at the key developments. What we know so far is that the young person's parents say they stand by the allegations against the BBC presenter and spoke out to help their child. In today's Sun, they brand the BBC liars and insist they spoke to the corporation for an hour in May about their concerns. But in a dramatic development, a lawyer for the young person has claimed the key allegations against the BBC presenter are rubbish. For the avoidance of doubt, nothing inappropriate or unlawful has taken place between our client and the BBC personality. The police are looking further into the allegations to assess whether there is evidence of a criminal offence being committed. Meanwhile, the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, will be in the eye of the storm today. He's going to have to face questions about the controversy at the launch of the BBC's annual report. Now, usually, these annual report days they are facing questions about BBC presenters' salaries. Today, it will be very different. Many will want a full timeline of what the BBC knew with this story.
All right, Nick, thank you very much indeed. We'll discuss what happens next with the Mail's Andrew Pearce. And Kevin Maguire from The Mirror is back this morning. First, though, here's Ranvir with the rest of the day's news.
Thank you so much.